The seventh angel warns that God's prophets must prophesy again, possibly in 2026, 2 years before the earthquake on Judgment Day in 2028. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God shall be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. In this context, the voice of the seventh angel is likened to a lion's roar. And in previous studies, we learned from Amos chapter 1 and Zechariah 14, the lion's roar means we must prophesy 2 years before an earthquake when Christ returns with all of his saints. Thus, in Revelation chapter 16, the vial of the seventh angel is associated with the great earthquake. We begin in verse 17. And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, It is done. And there were voices and thunders and lightning, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. Does the Bible provide any information as to the timing of this earthquake? Yes, in Revelation chapter 6, this earthquake is associated with untimely figs of a fig tree, used to indicate that Israel's synagogues will not produce the fruits of salvation. Verse 12. And I beheld, when he opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus referred to the withering, fruitless fig tree as a sign that his return is near. Additionally, in Amos chapter 1 and Psalm 90, the term wither is associated with the 2-year warning before the earthquake, possibly in 2026, as well as the 80th year when Israel was reestablished as a nation, to the year 2028, when withering, fruitless fig trees will be cut down, coinciding with the believers flying away or being raptured. Similarly, the 2 prophets who tormented the earth were raptured the same hour the seventh angel sounded amidst a great earthquake. These 2 prophets symbolize God's elect, who will be used to take the gospel into the world 2 years before the earthquake. We begin in verse 11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, which means they sent the gospel to the Gentiles according to Acts chapter 26, verse 16 to 17. And great fear fell among them which saw them, and they heard a voice from heaven saying, Come up hither. That is the rapture. And they ascended to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And the same hour there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 part of the city fell. And in the earthquake there was slain of men 7,000. And the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven. Verse 15. And the seventh angel sounded, and there was great voices in heaven, saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Undoubtedly, this seventh angel is used to announce the end of the world, when Jesus is given the kingdoms of this world prior to its destruction. And so, when we go back to Revelation chapter 10, we begin to understand why the seventh angel declared the mystery of God is finished. It is finished because God's prophets completed the task of taking the gospel into the world before the great earthquake. This information is contained in a little book, which primarily concerns the last 2 years before the earthquake, when the lion roars to indicate that we must prophesy again. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings.
Thou must
This language was taken from Ezekiel chapters 2 through 3, where the Son of Man ate a roll or scroll of the book and was designated as God's watchman, to ward Israel that judgment is coming. Let us begin in Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 3. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thou bowels with the roll that I give thee. And it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. Skipping down to verse 17, we read that the Son of Man was designated as God's watchman. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me. And that's precisely why Revelation chapter 10 verse 11 states that thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. But before the great earthquake on Judgment Day, God warns that we will not receive spiritual rain, that is biblical correction that turns us from error to truth, unless we observe the Great Tribulation Sabbaths at the end of 7 years during the Feast of Tabernacles, when we must turn away from the church's false doctrines. During the final 2 years of these Sabbaths, the seventh angel revealed that we must prophesy again, possibly in 2026, leading to the great earthquake, possibly on October 11, 2028, the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. On that day, the mystery of God will be finished, after the gospel goes into the world as a witness to all nations, and then the end will come.